So, Midwestern Marx and Casserole Boy are literal Nazis. They're literal Nazis. So, check this. I made a video on this when it happened. Midwest Marx accidentally quoted Hitler on 2 occasions. Eddie rejects native positions, but reaches out in solidarity to Holocaust denying UFC fighters. If you take ACP, Midwest Marx, or anyone opposed to black and indigenous governments as a serious and theoretically sound individual, place yourself in the recycling bin. It says recycling symbol. I'm assuming it means the recycling bin and not the garbage bin. Because there's the recycling symbol, and then there's the finger pointing down. And then Red Falcon FNI talks about how they've promoted perverts, convicted perverts, Tim Russo and Scott Ritter, and they had knowledge of the convictions. So check it. Here we go. And so check it. Let's not, and this is what precipitated, this is how this thread of publications started. Let's not forget old cauliflower, I would probably say broccoli here, has brain damage and is justifying genocide via economic stagism. Applying his argumentation to actually achieve communism through economic stagism requires, as he frames it, the removal of the obstacle Europeans and European governance are those obstacles. Look, I'm a kickboxer, right? And I don't shill for literal Nazis. In the case of most of Earth, even including Europe, due to its imperial and colonialism, in the case of most of the Earth, even including Europe, due to its imperial and colonialism. It's fucking sad that this position has to be taken, but I've been advocating against genocide for a decade. But if you want to follow him to the doom of humanity, go ahead and do your thing, I guess. He's talking about Casserole Boy, Eddie Smith, a.k.a. Mr. Bloat Max or Broccoli Ear. Realistically, towards the end of his argument, he shows his hand that he hasn't read, or if he has, understood any theory or application of decolonization, anti-colonization. He can't see the difference from the bizarre, white-led Nazi primitivist who claims anarchism and a movement of nations who seek to be free of colonial governments and backwards ideas, not a return to technologically simpler times, not a race-based hierarchy as he's desperately trying to preserve, and certainly not as he claims to want, but instead repurpose tired ideas, lack of solutions. Midwestern Marx accidentally quoted Hitler on 2 occasions, and I covered that. Eddie rejects native positions, but tries to reach out in solidarity to Holocaust-denying UFC fighters, Bryce Mitchell, to be specific. If you take the ACP, Midwest Marx, or anyone opposed to black and indigenous governance as serious and theoretically sound, place yourself in the bin, recycling emoji, finger pointing down emoji. We don't need to further or start new genocides. And if your off-brand Nazism painted red requires it, maybe paint your wall and free up your house for sheriff's sale. Posts Ruckus in B minor by the Wu-Tang Clan. Bonus, I forgot they've platformed 2 convicted sex offenders, Tim Russo and Scott Ritter, and were aware of their convictions at the time. This one of you have read all 7 posts. Like this one, if you've read all 7 posts in the thread. I read all 7 posts, and I said they also ran cover for Zionist Natan Levy. But this is madness. This is craziness that they're shilling for this Nazi, Bryce Mitchell, a.k.a. Fishing with Hitler. Literally, Bryce Mitchell said, MMA Joey covered it. Bryce Mitchell literally said that he wanted to go fishing with Hitler. Bryce Mitchell, denied the Holocaust, which murdered millions and millions of people, man. Like, are you kidding me? This guy is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, man. And here we have old Casserole Boy. Let me turn the sound on. I know TikTok is TikTok, same shit, different toilet. It's cringe, but let me turn the sound on to hear Casserole Boy shilling for a literal Nazi who's also an Islamophobe. And again, I'm a fighter. I do kickboxing, but I'm not as crazy or dumb as these two clowns. I hate Nazis. I absolutely hate Nazis. So here's what these clowns have to say.
Probably already heard what UFC featherweight Bryce Mitchell said today. And if you're not, why don't you just Google it, because I don't want to get banned. And I've been a longtime fan of
Bryce Mitchell. Here's what Bryce Mitchell did. Bryce Mitchell literally ran cover for Nazis. He literally ran cover for Hitler. Bryce Mitchell, a.k.a. Mr. Fishing with Hitler, ran cover for literal Nazis. How are you justifying a literal Nazi? Also, the UFC is owned by a Zionist, Ari Emanuel. Right? This is who Ari Emanuel is. Born to a Jewish family, Ari Emanuel was raised in suburban Wilmette, Illinois, several kilometers away from where my dad grew up. And trust me, I know the north side of Chicago quite well. And nobody likes the Emanuels out there. Unless you're a hardcore Zionist, a degenerate, or a cuck. Emanuel was the brother of former Chicago mayor, Zionist criminal, Rahm Emanuel, and American oncologist and bioethicist, Ezekiel Emanuel, and sister Shoshana Emanuel. And his dad was literally a Zionist terrorist. His dad, who was born in Qudus, Benjamin Emanuel, was a pediatrician who was active in the Irgun in Mandatory Palestine. This man was a Zionist terrorist in Palestine. His mother, Marsha Smolovitz, was a civil rights activist. Again, the Zionists infiltrated the civil rights movement in America. And the owner of a Chicago rock and roll club. Are you kidding me? This Zionist Jew owns the UFC. This is why I don't watch UFC no more. This is why I mostly watch Arabian combat sports, Brave Combat, and sometimes, once in a great while, one championship. This is why I like Glory Kickboxing better. And with one championship, I watch some MMA, I watch some Muay Thai, I watch mostly kickboxing, because that's my sport. That's my favorite sport, man. But here's the thing, Mr. Broccoli Ears, a.k.a. Casserole Boy, a.k.a. Englishman. Why are you watching organizations run by Zionist Jews, Zionist terrorists? Why are you shilling for Nazis, dude? Bryce Mitchell's a Nazi, dude. Bryce Mitchell, a.k.a. Mr. Fishing with Hitler, because that's what Bryce Mitchell said. Bryce Mitchell, dude, this is a Nazi. Why are you... Dude, Bryce Mitchell's a literal Nazi. Rampage Jackson checked him on his show. So what are we doing here? What are we doing? Why are we shilling for Nazis here? It does make no sense. This makes absolutely zero sense.
Anna Bryce's fighting, and even some of his political takes, like fighting the rich and ending all of the U.S. wars, was some...
When did Bryce ever say end U.S. wars? When did Bryce ever say fight the rich? Bryce is a flat earther. Bryce is an Islamophobe. Bryce is a Zionist. Bryce is a right-wing Protestant extremist from down south. Bryce is what I would consider a Scots-Irish degenerate Protestant. Bryce Mitchell is a literal Nazi. Why are you trying to reach out to the man? Bryce Mitchell's an Islamophobe. Bryce Mitchell's a Nazi. Bryce Mitchell fights in an organization that is owned by a literal Zionist terrorist. But this man, Eddie Smith, aka Casserole Boy with broccoli ears, that fat bloat-maxing motherfucker, again, he's Northern European, and we know the Northern Europeans love the bloat max. You know, that's why Northern Europeans have good wrestling and MMA. That's why they're a bunch of fat asses. Look at Jack Hermanson. That guy's a fat ass, right? So, again, what are we doing here, Eddie? Why are you shilling for Nazis? Why are you shilling for Zionists, Protestants, and Islamophobes? Unless you're one too, Eddie. And we got a little bit more to expose Midwest marks on here.
Sometimes when people are questioning the system, they get confused and they go down a rabbit hole that's designed to prevent you from...
Oh, he just questioning the system and got confused and went down the rabbit hole. Have you not seen this guy's history of takes? His Islamophobia, his right-wing Protestant extremism? Have you not seen that history? The flat eartherism? The racist shit he said about black people? Have you not seen that shit, Eddie? Are you kidding me, bro? This is crazy. Why are you... He just went down the rabbit hole and got confused. Dude, I'm a college dropout. Even I know that what Bryce Mitchell's doing is wrong.
From actually fighting the system. A rabbit hole that leads you to blaming certain ethnicities for your problems rather than the corporation.
Jewish is not an ethnicity. It's a religion, you dumbass.
And banks who run the country. So Bryce.
And many of those corporations and banks, who are they run by? Zionists, you dumbass.
I have a book.
And there are Christian Zionists who run them. There are also Jewish Zionists who run them. So, and why are we quoting Michael Parenti, who is totally washed up? And why are you reaching out to literal Nazis? That doesn't make sense. Why are you reaching out to literal Nazis? This is absolute madness.
Book that I want to gift you. It's called Black Shirts and Reds by Michael Parenti, and it's an...
So again, this man would rather reach out to Nazis than learn anti-colonial theory. And this man looks like he has staph on the right side of his face. Just saying.
Analysis of World War II that talks about class. Basically, which forces...
Talks about class. Again, this man won't even talk about class and settler colonialism's role in class, and settlers are their own separate class. Because this man is a Zionist. This man's an Islamophobe. This man is a literal Nazi. And he's quoted Hitler twice. Now he's shilling for Bryce Mitchell, running cover for Bryce Mitchell, and Bryce Mitchell said that he wanted to go fishing with Hitler. Eddie, do you want to go fishing with Hitler as well? Are you a Nazi as well? Because it sure looks like you are. And oh boy, we're going to get into the whole ACP stuff. We're going to get into the, all the other stuff going on. We're going to get into the ACP stuff we'll get into. We'll get into the Dan Cohen stuff. Because Dan Cohen's got a clear history of being a Zionist that he's even admitted to. We're going to get into that stuff. We're going to get into that stuff because Eddie is, and then Catherine Liu, and, the China grifting and shit, like grifting for Zionist China. We're going to get into that.
Forces were supported by the working class and which forces were supported by big banks and corporations. I want to give you this book for free. I will ship it right to you if you
I'm going to reach out to a Nazi because I'm Eddie Liger Smith. I have broccoli ears. I'm a casserole boy. I say, oh, don't you know? I beg for a bag of bagels. Dude, Eddie Smith is a Nazi. Eddie Smith is a Nazi. Eddie Smith is a literal Nazi apologist. Why are you shilling for a Nazi apologist? That's just... Well, Eddie Smith's a Nazi. Bryce Mitchell's a Nazi. Bryce Mitchell, for all he claimed, for all the times he claims he's not a Nazi, why are you shilling? Why was Bryce Mitchell talking about fishing with Adolf? Why was Bryce Mitchell talking about fishing with Hitler? And MMA Joey covered it quite well. Now, I'd wish MMA Joey would cover, the Zionist collaboration of the UFC, but that's for a different video. But dude, why are you shilling for Nazi Bryce Mitchell, who's also an Islamophobe, who's also a Protestant degenerate? What are we doing here, Eddie? What are we doing here?
To me in private. I think you're really going to like it, and it might change the way that you see history in the Second World War and some of the characters who were involved with that war.
This man is no different than Critical Eye MMA. This man is just the English version of Critical Eye MMA. You remember Critical Eye MMA? The Irish Nazi. Again, clearly a Nazi. Irish Nazi who does MMA videos. Eddie is no different.
Oh man, Bryce, you're going to be hearing about this one for the rest of your life.
No shit, Sherlock. So here's piece of evidence number 2. Communist view of Hamilton and the Founding Fathers. Are you kidding me? What is this crap? This man likes to shill for human traffickers. And then you got the Dan Cohen situation. Why are we platforming Dan Cohen? I sound like Greg Doucette. Why are you platforming Dan Cohen? Dan Cohen is a literal Zionist collaborator. So this is from Dan Cohen's own mouth. It's 7 October 2023, 12:37 p.m. Dan Cohen says, I am a Jewish guy who had my bar mitzvah in Qudus and went on birthright. I lived for Palestine for 3 years, including 7 months in Gaza. I support 100% Palestinian resistance. This man has a history of Zionist normalization. Why are we promoting him? Why are you promoting a man who went on birthright, that's Zion, which is Zionist normalization, and had his bar mitzvah in Qudus? Are you kidding me? This is crazy. And this is Carlos Garrido, who's platforming this Zionist grifter. Oh boy, it gets worse than that. Escaping the...
Welcome everyone to our first...
Look at this guy. He looks like he wants to gentrify your neighborhood with those little earrings. Never trust a man with earrings. Never trust a man. And he's shilling for Zionist China. And who is his guest? This caveman. This, what you would call a wallah cuz bro. Why does he have Hazaldin on to talk about Trump and MAGA? And now I'm no fan of Danny Shaw. I think Danny Shaw is a liberal Zionist for platforming Zionist settler Amos Poe. But this Hazaldin is a narcissist. So Danny Shaw says, this is January 17, 2025. Danny Shaw says, I just left a cult disguised as the American Communist Party. Your natural tendency may be to think I am bluffing. Look at me shaking. Listen to my anxiety. Then judge for yourself. My heart has not been beating the same since November 1st. Only I know what I just lived. It is not me who was mad, but rather the narcissists and sycophants who brought me and others to this point of absolute disbelief and exhaustion. I are beginning to see... What are you, Norwegian or something? I am... Jeez Louise, Irishman. I am beginning to see everything clearly, but full of comprehension of what I endured for the past 5 months, and our collective healing will take time. While I was aware that cult leader Ali Hamoud, alias Haz, he's from Borish Hamoud in Beirut. I know where his family's from. I'm part Lebanese. Represented an infantile bastardization of our principles as revolutionaries and community organizers. I kept my head down. There was a snowball effect from there. Through the traumatizing lens, narcissism that I was up against with 200 or so others who were unconscious of it, a larger, clearer portrait of what I endured is emerging. Not only am I a cult survivor, I came out on the other side as a cult infiltrator and cult destroyer. I'm truly grateful for this. And then he talks about the grooming process. Cult survivor and therapeutic specialist, who ironically shares my name, Daniel Shaw, wrote Traumatic Narcissism, Relationship Systems of Subjugation. Shaw's book takes a deeper dive into the formation of a narcissist. What is most characteristic of the traumatizing narcissist is his compelling need to suppress subjectivity in the other, so that the narcissist's subjectivity is always exclusively important and only valid in any dyad or group. So, they're platforming a literal narcissist. This is crazy. And this man, this is the same man who tried to smuggle weapons into Haiti. Are you kidding me? The Haiti experts. On November 1st, I was tricked into coming to a sit-down with Dan Cohen and Kim Ives. Dan Cohen, you know, the Zionist, the liberal Zionist grifter. Dan Cohen. That culminated in a most unfortunate way. This was not dialectics. If you all are the lifelong experts on Haiti, why didn't you set up a meeting beforehand to convince me of this? You lied to get me into a meeting with two individuals I identified as liars and opportunists. Then when I pushed back, Kyle started screaming at me that he's in the executive board and I have to do what he says, and it is all recorded and Haas on several occasions, and I promised on several occasions to share the video. I was shell-shocked and disgusted to watch this double dealing playing out. When I confronted Kyle about this later, he just blamed it all on Haas and the inability to organize. After much imploring from Eddie, Noah, and Carlos over the summer, I attempted to work more closely with Kyle. He had already attempted to manipulate a misunderstanding in Dearborn over the Memorial Day weekend when we formed the Institute for Free America. Kyle's a catastrophizer. Kyle makes mountains out of molehills. He seeks to present situations as if he was indispensable to resolving them. This does not take away from the arduous work he has done, but he has a need to take hold of the situation so he can exploit them and look like the man. His manipulation of a misunderstanding in Dearborn culminated in his contact with the e-girl, I'm assuming he means prostitute, Nikki, who he's trying to promote at the time, who he was promoting at the time. So he's pimping a prostitute. Kyle Pettis is literally pimping a prostitute. E-girl sounds like prostitute. That's what it sounds like, online prostitution. Trying to dox me on stage at a meeting of the World Anti-Imperialist Platform, you know, the liberal Zionist China benders in D.C. By the way, Caleb Mopstein was at that event as well. This is crazy. In the run-up to the Haiti meeting, Kyle told me, Christian and the other Colorado bleepits have no clue about Haiti. We have to listen to the expert who has been on the ground there. He buttered me up. He tried to finish all my sentences saying that he agreed with my conclusions about the class struggle in Haiti. He said the ACP was taking direction from me. As soon as Haas got on that Zoom, Kyle did an about-face and did what he is best at, sucking up to Haas. After talking so much shit about the F-it opportunist Cohen and Ives, I don't want to get canceled for saying F-its, within minutes of he was all smiles, sucking up to them, I learned a lot about ACP. This is crazy. In the lead up to the meeting, Haas promised me that no matter what, we were going to be united because our ACP comrades. He also told me the masses in Haiti and everywhere were nothing, that they were non-factor. He was all over the place. If ACP is not about mass upheaval and mass empowerment, then what is? Your wannabe tanky warlordism is not a Marxist worldview. It is an infantile far-left adventurism. If it is what your Russian sponsors want, okay, but be honest about it. If you have no interest in organizing with the masses of Haiti, then what is your motivation? Has the Haiti expert even read my 27 years of research on Haiti? If you all wanted to meddle in Haiti through Russia, why didn't you inform me? Autistic Tweedledee and suck up Tweedledum just pointing the finger at one another. I'm not going to jail or putting the party at risk because one of you is a narcissist and the other is an ass kisser. The author has publicly apologized for these statements here and should have been 100% clear when speaking on such sensitive matters. Again, what is going on here with Midwest Marx propping up a weapons smuggler and Russian operative? This is crazy. And who is this woman they
You can't prevent sick days.
have on the show?
That's why Kleenex lotion tissues moisturize to help.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Probably Cancelled podcast in coalition with the Midwestern Marx Institute. My name is Bridget, and I'm your host.
Oh, it's that Bridget chick from Texas who is a literal neo-Confederate and a neo-Nazi. Why are you promoting neo-Confederate neo-Nazis from Texas? And why are you promoting a Chinese operative? Clearly, she's a Chinese operative. She is clearly a Chinese operative. But this Nazi, this neo-Confederate Nazi from Texas, and if you look at her Twitter, she's a neo-Confederate Nazi. Why are you promoting? Why is a neo-Confederate Nazi collaborating with a Chinese operative who shills for Zionist China? I can just imagine her going, "Oh, shishi, thank you for having me on the show." Are you kidding me? Again, Catherine Liu is also being promoted by Jacobin. And who is Jacobin funded by? The New York Jewish Communal Fund, the parent group of J Street. This is crazy. And who's this guy? Alex
Hi,
McKay.
everyone.
He looks like some balding Irishman. Again, Bridget is a neo-Confederate Nazi. And what were these guys doing in Dearborn? The same week as a Palestine conference was there. This is crazy. And then you have liberal Zionist J.B. Fontleroy, who I have documented his liberal Zionism. This is crazy. This is freaking crazy. And then they're shilling for Rogan.
Racist Zionist.
Again, this is this. Dan Cohen is a Zionist.
Welcome.
Dan Cohen is a Zionist. Dan Cohen went on Birthright and had his bar mitzvah in Qudus. Dan Cohen is a Zionist collaborator. Okay? Why are we platforming him? Why are you platforming him?
Okay.
And why are we shilling for Thailand hostage negotiators when Thailand workers in Palestine are Zionist settlers? And it's this fruitcake with earrings that's doing it.
Thank you so much, Andrew Ray, for the $5 super chat. We're true.
this Ranjit Brar guy? Is he a small hat? Is he a Desi? I mean, we know George Galloway is a grifter.
You can't have a state based.
I don't want to hear that man's voice ever. Especially because he's a liberal Zionist who wears earrings. And why are they shilling for human trafficker Andrew Tate? And again, they promote a literal neo-Confederate, Oliver Anthony. They shill for Zionist terrorist, Zionist settler, Natan Levy. This is crazy. And so why are they platforming Zionist Norman Finkelstein and Zionist Giannis Antetokounmpo? And then they have Radhika Desai on here too. What's the deal with that? And then you got the Three Stooges talking about Iraq. So shout out to Red Falcon FNI. This man right here. So how much you want to bet?
If you're an MMA fan,
How much you want to bet that Eddie Smith wants to go fishing with Hitler? Just like Bryce Mitchell. Next episode of the Ark Insanity, we're going to see Eddie Smith on it with Bryce Mitchell. And it'll probably be titled Fishing with Hitler. So there you go.